Welcome to today's market report. European stock markets traded sharply lower on Wednesday following the late sell-off on Wall Street and hit by losses to the basic resources sector. DAX in Germany traded 1.1% lower, CAC 40 fell 0.9%, FTSE 100 dropped 1%. A retreat in commodity prices made miners and oil and gas stocks among the top losers in Europe, with BP down 1.2%, Shell off 1.8%, BHP Group 2.2% lower, and Rio Tinto down 1.9%. Oil prices weakened on Wednesday as investors digested the prospects of more supply entering the market following reports of progress in the talks between the United States and Iran to revive a deal limiting the Persian Gulf countries' nuclear program, which could lead to a lifting of sanctions on its crude exports. Crude futures traded 1.4% lower at $64.61 per barrel. Brent fell 1.3% to $67.86 per barrel. The weak tone followed a late sell-off on Wall Street, with all the major tech stocks ending in the red, as investors feared holding growth companies into the release of the minutes of the latest Federal Reserve meeting. Stocks have been pressured of late on concerns that growing inflationary pressures could force the US Central Bank to rein in its ultra-easy monetary policies. With this in mind, investors will study the minutes of the April Fed meeting when they are released later on Wednesday for clues of when the central bank could consider cutting back its bond purchases, a move likely to precede increases in interest rates. Further evidence of these global inflationary pressures were seen in the UK as Britain's inflation rate doubled in April. Consumer prices rose 1.5% from a year earlier last month after a 0.7% gain in March, driven mainly by a jump in domestic energy prices and clothing. Julius Baer stock rose 2.4% after the Swiss wealth manager said it was on track to deliver on financial targets as it posted an 8% rise in assets under management for the first 4 months of 2021. Premier Foods stock rose 2% after the UK-based food manufacturer reinstated its dividend for the first time in 13 years, citing people cooking more at home during the lockdowns. Experian stock fell 2.2% after the information services company saw revenues continue to decline in its UK and Ireland businesses, despite strong performances elsewhere across the globe. Gold futures rose 0.1% to $1,869.05 per ounce. On the FX front, GBP/USD is approaching the 142.38 to 142.45 February high. Above here, cable would target the 143.77, the 2018 high, according to Commerzbank. The pound remained well supported by the upbeat outlook for the UK economic recovery from the pandemic, bolstered by the gradual easing of lockdown restrictions. The optimism was further fueled by the latest UK consumer inflation figures, however limited by a generally softer risk tone as depicted by a modest pullback in the equity markets, helped limit the downside for the safe haven US dollar and therefore capped gains for GBP/USD. Investors also seemed reluctant to place any aggressive bullish bets, rather preferred to wait on the sidelines ahead of Wednesday's release of the FOMC meeting minutes. Even from a technical perspective, the overnight strong positive move stalled near a resistance marked by the top end of over 1 month-old ascending trend line. This further marks it prudent to wait for some strong follow-through buying before positioning for any further appreciating move towards retesting year-to-date tops around the 142.35 region touched in February. Eurodollar is currently challenging the February high at 122.42. Above here, the next target is seen at the 123.49 2021 high. Targets at 1 125.56 to 126.19, the 2018 high, the 200-month moving average, and the 55-quarter moving average are awaiting. The bulls could have a chance to test the first hurdle at the 122.50 horizontal resistance level if price sustained over the 122.35 mark. The dollar steadied against major currencies on Wednesday as traders awaited Federal Reserve's minutes. Bitcoin tumbled below the closely watched $40,000 mark, while Ether dropped to $2,900 from $4,000 after China banned its financial institutions from offering services related to cryptocurrency assets. The dollar index was at 89.732, close to the lowest since late February. This is today's market news. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.